a hard copy.
If you'll turn off your Wi-Fi, you should be able to get on through the satellite.
Only if you turn on your cellular data, though.
But that ought to be turned on all the time.
So I like this seamless transition.
Except sometimes you're in an airport and then they make you pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
Here, this is the direct
Airplane.
But if you have a real computer, you're very much out of luck.
I thought this was a real one, Chuck.
No, that's not a real computer. Nice try.
Do we
One of the five computers. Computers doesn't even get computers.
Come on, get yourself one of them new Apple Watches.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We all can't afford Apple.
Okay. Should have bought the,
You tell him, Jim.
should have bought this stock a long time ago.
On the printer. She's got.
Yeah, we can share.
I wish I would have bought this stock.
She'll have them.
Okay, well, we can go ahead and start. Okay, call to order. Roll call, please.
Grossi. Adamick. Babbage. Bible. Frizalone. Gould. Howard. Mayor.
Yeah.
Eustace. Weigel. Wilhelmie. Winfrey. And Brooks.
Here. Okay. Pledge of allegiance. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask Diane Zagrosi if she can lead the pledge, but right after the pledge, if you would mind standing with me for one moment in silence for today is the 13th year of the 9/11 Memorial. Diane, would you please?
Thank you. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, we have any minutes? No minutes? Public Building Commission report? We have that? No, Denise and them are out in Nevada. Colorado, thank you. Okay, we'll move that to next month.
I actually thought I'm going to be moving that to the Capital Improvements Committee. Did you want to?
They asked for report.
So next month.
Okay, so we'll move that to next month because they're not here. Public comment, anyone from the public? Oh, okay. Old business, number 1, authorizing execution of intergovernmental recycling disposal service host agreement, and I'm turning it over to Bruce Freefield.
Today we have our Special Assistant State's Attorney Charles Helston on the line. He's represented us in our waste matters for years. He's worked closely with an internal group that includes Dean Olson and myself and the state's attorney regarding this agreement for a secondary host agreement to environmental recycling and disposal service. So Chuck is on the line to give us an update.
Okay.
Well, before he does that, Chuck, one moment.
So we're not going to get in the weeds today, just to let you know where it's at and whether or not it adequately protects the county. Chuck, it's all yours.
Morning, Chuck.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. As I reported earlier, over the course of the last week, we were down to negotiation of language in 2 sections. One was Section 25, which we have resolved, I think, to the benefit of both sides.
Chuck, before you go any further, I just want to be clear that we are in open session.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce. The second section was Section 8, which is deemed, I think, by both sides to be the most important provision in the host agreement, which is, by way of review, is the preferred disposal facility provision, which the way we had drafted it would require ERDS to direct waste to the Prairie View facility, and we would be doing so under our authority vested in us by the Solid Waste Planning and Recycling Act as the primary waste planner for the county itself, the land use department. They would direct all waste to Prairie View so long as the quote-unquote total per ton disposal cost, and that's the operative term, is equal to or less than the total per ton disposal cost being offered by other facilities in a geographical area which we designated in northern Illinois and northwest Indiana. The rub has been what factors, if any, should be explicitly or expressly included in the agreement. ERDS 1 said, of course, there'll be factors if we go to arbitration or go to dispute, but the reality of the marketplace is that every day the factors change. It's a moving dynamic every day because we're in a commodity market, just like, as I indicated in a discussion prior to this to our internal group, just like metal salvage people, metal brokers, those types of people, any type of brokerage of any type of commodity, it's a moving dynamic every day. So they said, we don't want to designate or heighten the level of importance of one factor over another. We had thought it was important to include, at minimum, transport costs and all site-specific fees, assessments, and other charges in determining whether the per-ton disposal cost at Prairie View is equal to or less than that being offered at other sites. ERDS didn't have a problem. For a while they did, but eventually they said, okay. The last part of the sentence is what bothered them, though. We had asked to exclude any credits, set-offs, trade or swap or stock pricing arrangements which had been applied to the per-ton disposal cost they were getting to take the waste to somewhere other than Prairie View that pertain to other negotiations or other deals they had. Let me give you the best example I can. Many times when a company negotiates the disposal cost, the owner of the landfill will say, well, it's this price if all you're sending me is this volume. Or it's that price if you're just sending me waste but not recyclables, not reclaimed precious metals, those kind of things. But if you send me those in this tonnage, then the price goes down to this. It's the Walmart principle. It's a dynamic that works every day in everybody's business. And here we have that that's just the reality of the marketplace, that many times the per-ton disposal, total per-ton disposal cost will be driven by, it's not an artificial fudging of it, but it will be driven by these other factors. And that's what arbitration is for. If we get to a dispute, we can all argue that before an arbitrator, and they agree to my arbitration clause. I put the AAA commercial business dispute arbitration clause, modified it. They actually liked it, they said, and thought it was fair and equitable. So I think we are now, I will turn it back over to Bruce and Dean for their thoughts, but I think so long as we have in there two factors that must always be considered are all site-specific fees, assessments, and charges and transport costs, and then allow other factors to be considered. That's a pretty fair and equitable deal, and my recommendation would be we go forward with the host agreement.
I think Dean has been our technical leader on this, so Dean, why don't you speak to the issue?
As everyone knows, it's taken a while, but I think what Chuck says is exactly accurate. So, and I think this is the best we can do. We want to make sure that we have at least consideration for the waste to go to Prairie View, because that is a huge asset. It's part of our solid waste plan. It's the cornerstone of it. So we want to make sure that if it's locally generated, it has a chance to go to the landfill. I understand if some other place is dramatically cheaper, then so be it. It goes there. That's just right. That's economic sense. So I think what Chuck says, hopefully that will be agreeable to the other party, and we'll be done.
Any questions for the executive board first? Reagan?
Are they in agreement? The way you described it?
Wait, so he can hear.
Are both parties in agreement to what you described, Chuck?
Mr. Gould, I believe there, my last communication with Mr. Mueller was he would strongly recommend what I just outlined to his client, but we haven't communicated today. I said, well, first I have to take this to the board. He said, fine, but I would strongly recommend it to my client. I think if he strongly recommends it, then we're there.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me go to executive board first. Any other questions? All right, Reagan, you had your hand up first, and then Mike. Mike?
Donnie.
Oh, okay. Mike, first along.
Yeah, when it was talked about the geographic area, does that include just existing landfills, or would it be geographic area for any future landfill that may come online later?
That's a good question. It doesn't designate landfill. It designates the geographical area, which is northern Illinois, central and northwest Indiana, within feasible transport distance. So any new landfill that pops up within that designated area would be covered.
Any other? Chuck, my only question is that you said in your earlier presentation you feel comfortable that this agreement will fly, that it will work. Any time frame what we're looking at before we can get an agreement to sign?
I think if I get with Mr. Mueller in the afternoon, he's generally in court in the morning. I have my best luck catching him from 1:30 or 2 o'clock on. We can bang out these last couple of terms and probably get something done in the next, maybe by the end of business tomorrow.
Great. Glad to hear that.
So then, is the recommendation to place this on the agenda with the agreement to be distributed upon our receipt of the document?
Yes.
Okay.
Need a motion?
Need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. We'll move in second. All in favor?
Aye.
No? The ayes have it. Thank you, Chuck.
Yes, thank you, Chuck.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Is that all? Okay. Thanks, Dean. All right. Any other old business? None. New business. Number 1. Presentation by the Village of Shanahan regarding an intergovernmental agreement to provide for finance of public improvement. Mr. Durkin.
How are you?
Come down. No, come
over here.
and introduce yourself. Like you got a stand since I saw you right now.
Oh, unfortunately. Thank you very much. My name is Tom Durkin. I'm the village administrator with Shanahan. Been there approximately 6 weeks now. Came from the village of Crete, if everybody remembers that. Maybe you've seen my face before without the beard. So I just wanted to say it's good to remain in Will County, and I'm happy that I can continue to do so. Today I'm here to talk to you about a proposed intergovernmental agreement between the village of Shanahan and all of the other taxing districts regarding a proposed development at the northeast corner of Bluff Road and I-55. In your packets, I believe you have all of the information regarding that to date, which includes a narrative on the project that spells out the associated improvements necessary, how it's proposed to be financed, as well as a draft intergovernmental agreement, which I'm in the process of going around to all the different taxing bodies and doing a very same presentation that I'm doing here and meeting with the individual members of those groups, as well as a spreadsheet that kind of details the costs associated with the property currently and with the proposed time frame of development, which covers about a 10 to 15 year period. And then finally, you have some maps that show some of the improvements that are being proposed, a conceptual site plan, which includes about 2 million or so square feet of industrial, warehouse, distribution type of space, as well as some of the initial preliminary improvements that would be made to the Bluff Road interchange with I-55, which is not only, I need to point out, not only going to be a benefit to this project, but it's going to be basically a benefit to the entire east side of 55 between Bluff Road and Route 6 to the north. I don't want to bore you with reading through this because I'm sure you all had an opportunity to digest it, and I'd rather spend some time really getting your comments. But a couple of things I want to point out, and that is, first of all, this is not a tax abatement to a private developer, okay? This is a sharing of tax dollars by the taxing districts with the village of Shanahan in order to pay for these improvement costs, which again, are not only for this project, but will open up 400 acres worth of property outside of this to the north. So I want to make sure everybody understands, none of this money is going to a developer or a property owner in this particular case. It's a different way of doing things, admittedly. And I think it's different than maybe some things that the county is used to doing in the past. But you need to understand fully that this is money that helps to pay the bonds. Shanahan's going on the hook for the bonds. We're selling the bonds with our credit rating and we're putting it out there. And we're asking for the taxing bodies to help to fund those proceeds to pay for the infrastructure improvements. The agreement itself is pretty self-explanatory. It is a draft agreement, and I want to make sure that we get all comments necessary from all the different taxing bodies before we develop a final agreement, the same of which that everybody would be considering for signature. And we hope to bring that back to you very, very soon, and you put this project to bed.
All right. And the first question, Mr. Mustis.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
So, yeah, I want to kid.
Okay.
Welcome to Shanahan. I'm not living in Shanahan, I'm not representing Shanahan, but welcome to Shanahan.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom, I did take the time to read through. It is a little different. So I'm going to ask you just about the mechanics of it. But before I do that, what type of success are you having with the other taxing bodies?
It's been very well received by everybody. We had some comments back, as you might expect, from the school districts who are digging in a little bit deeper in terms of what this actually means to them. But everybody has received it with open arms and sees that it's a good opportunity to partner for development with the village in opening up hundreds of acres on the east side of 55 in Shanahan for development.
I think it's a good project, and I think when we look at TIFs, this is what they're supposed to be used for, these types of public improvements very often. So the reason I'm asking about the participation, as I read through the document, you mentioned there's still going to be a shortfall that will be made up by Shanahan.
Correct.
And it's not that it's a real large shortfall. It's not a real small one either.
Correct.
And so what are you going to do if you don't get participation? If you don't get 100% participation? Will you scrap the project? I mean, the reason I'm asking is I could see the county perhaps saying our intent is to join the TIF that will, but if you're not going to get enough participation, I'm just curious what Plan B is. If you're going to still try to go forward with this, give it a larger. Well, Shanahan would have to subsidize it with
A larger chunk of the money, correct. And that's something that is still up for discussion, to be honest with you. I don't know that we've spent a lot of time doing that. I mean, again, this project predates me a little bit, so I'm a little bit short on information when it comes to alternate B and things of that nature. But honestly, we felt that this is probably the best way to go, and if you really focused on the spreadsheet, and for example, what the county gets now out of their property is $171 a year. What you stand to gain in the first year from the first building at full assessment is about $19,000. So honestly, when the taxing bodies have seen that, that has been basically, well, this is a great deal. Let's go with it. So I don't want to say we didn't anticipate everybody not going along with it, but we certainly thought that it's presented in such a way that it's a win-win for everybody and opens up a lot of opportunity in the future. Now, did I answer your question? Probably not.
Well, we're a minor player in this.
I understand that, but you're still an important player, and everybody in there is an important player with respect to that.
School district.
The school district, yeah, that's the way things are in Illinois. The school districts are the biggest ones, and they're the ones that you have to make sure you get on there. The short answer is I don't know what will happen if we don't get We'd like to get a full buy-in from everybody, because that just shows that it's a comprehensive approach to economic development in the region. I guess we'll have to cross that bridge should we come to it. Thank you.
Okay. Let me go to Don Gould.
I was just going to say, it seems in a lot of ways analogous to a TIF. It's not a TIF on paper, but it foregoes the revenue, and the revenue goes in, and in this case, for public improvements, but it seems like a TIF.
I call it a TIF because it's formulated like a TIF.
It's similar in fashion, but it's an intergovernmental agreement. It's not a 23-year time period. It's not, there's a fixed amount of costs that are being associated with the project. And I should mention also here that part of that 350 to 400 acre plus, there's a recapture agreement on that, because the improvements to Bluff Road and the extension of the water main across under I-55 are going to serve all of that property. So if the hope is that the first building goes up, activities there, the next thing happens, the property to the north, which is another 350 acres or so, is currently on the market for sale, and it is being actively marketed. The idea is that once you start to see some action out there, more of these properties start falling into place. The recapture buys down the need for the property taxes to pay the bonds back.
The properties to the north and the acreage you speak of, all zoned industrial. I mean, we don't want to subsidize any residential type situation. We're totally industrial, and I'm sure the school district is also questions that they're not going to create a burden on their school district.
That was one of the comments.
Revenue.
Right. That is one of the comments we received back from the school district, and that is we specifically had language to this agreement saying that no residential development will occur, and we're fine with that. A lot of that property to the north currently isn't in the village yet. It's in our boundary agreement with Joliet that it's going to be in Shanahan. Our long-range plan shows that it's not residential or industrial, even some commercial development as you get closer to Route 6 with respect to that. So we have no intentions of doing any type of residential development in that area.
And that ramp, just for comment purposes, that ramp on the other side of 55 on Bluff Road it's never really been improved in its need of some,
Actually, IDOT is laying the first contract on that this fall, in November of this year, to begin the reconstruction of Route 6 bridge overpass. It's a $22 million project.
You could use it.
Yeah, the state's committed to that. So if you look at that, you look at the improvements down to Bluff Road here, you're really starting to create that environment for development. We really believe that this contribution, if you will, to Shanahan to pay these bonds is going to result in some, along with the other infrastructure improvements in the area, is going to result in some pretty significant.
We have another question, Tom. Chuck.
Down in Springfield right now, there's a bill that's coming out of the Senate that is going to the House that may restructure our whole school district funding formula. And that's going to be a huge impact on our districts to give up any kind of revenue. Kind of piggybacking on what Jim said here, I mean, we get into this situation and the school districts are getting blasted with a 41% cut. And I don't know what your districts are. I know that's potentially up in our area what could happen. Where do we go from here with this kind of?
Shanahan's on the hook, aren't they?
Yeah. By the way, Tom, I think it's worth mentioning that this is a 10-year agreement, not a 26-year agreement.
Correct. 23 years, right? And then typical TIF with respect to that, right? And hopefully it'll be even less. I mean, as we think, we think it's going to happen. As activity starts, it's going to hopefully breed activity. And, that's always the hope, but it's not a guarantee.
Okay. And any other questions? And this is just for an FYI right now.
Well, what I'd like to get is maybe work through Bruce, get some comments back from the committee, and be able to fashion this agreement in a final form to bring back for approval to the county board.
Okay, let me take another question.
What's your timeline?
As soon as possible, within the next few months. Within the next couple months, we want to get all the taxing bodies online. We still have to work out the finalized annexation agreement with the developer and things of that nature. The property still has to be annexed. So over the course of the next couple of months, we want to wrap all these things up because this is going to be important to move the project forward. So we have to develop an annexation agreement with the developer on this end, but this agreement is going to be party to that agreement. See what I'm saying? And if we don't have this, does this still move forward? So we're trying to work these things in tandem. So the sooner the better.
I have one other quick
Jim?
comment.
Okay.
I mean, this is for committee members. You know, I would be supportive of this because it is Shanahan. Because I do think it's an improvement that'll promote economic development, give us additional employment opportunities here, investment opportunities. So, and Shanahan is basically taking up all risks.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, there's really no risk for us. Typically, we as a board would give a 5-year tax abatement, is what we typically would do. So, since, you know, you're requesting this method versus asking for a 5-year abatement, which goes to the owners of the property.
Correct.
And not to the public sector. So this money really goes to the public sector. It goes to Shanahan. So everybody has a clear understanding of that. And I do like this, by the way. I like the idea of the abatements or the tax break really going directly to the municipality or to whatever the taxing authority is to do the improvement rather than wait for the private sector to do the improvement. So I think I could be supportive.
And that's why we think that Plan B won't exist, because everybody will love Plan A.
Tom, let me do this. We have a lot on our agenda today, but let me do this. The two reps, Reagan and Don from District 6, I think you both agree, along with the executive board, this is a win-win situation for Will County.
We agree with that.
And
Yes.
you're taking on the risk, so we like that.
Great.
So, all right, any other questions? Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you
We'll be in
again.
touch soon.
All right. Okay, number 2, declare sheriff seized vehicle surplus and authorizing disposal. Rita.
Morning.
Morning.
These are seized vehicles as opposed to sheriff's usable vehicles, so we would like to request disposal through Clinton Auto.
Second. Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
No? Guys have it. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Once again, Rita, authorizing county exec to execute lease agreement for Pitney Bowes mail management system.
Move.
Second.
I have one issue. We've
Yeah, please.
actually going to request that we remove one of the meters
Oh.
that currently resides in the county board office. Since they're not mailing packets out anymore, they don't feel the need to have this standalone meter. We
Okay.
still have the main meter in the lower level on the main
So
floor.
it's not cost advantageous for them to have.
And so we'll be saving quite a
Yeah.
bit by removing that.
Right, okay. Okay, was there a motion, we're gonna remove the one from the county board office? You can put it in the trunk of my car, Rita, I think it. Was it second? Was it second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
No? Ayes have it, thank you, Rita. Rita, awarding bid for tire collection event.
Right, this is one of our annual events that Land Use Department holds. There was one bidder. It's the same vendor that did last year. It's Treadstone. He's a local vendor, and it will be approximately $55,000 cost to the county.
Move. Second.
Okay, move.
I have a question.
Question, Wally?
Does that person get paid $55,000 if we get 0 tires or 100 tires, or how does that work specifically?
Did you have a question,
Can
maybe?
probably answer, but it's based on
Based
the
on
loads.
truck
Right.
I see. So
How many truck loads?
there's a certain amount of tires that are collected, you get a certain amount, so it'll be not to exceed 55,000, or is that?
That
So
we're
it could-
basing it on
could-
last
It could
year's.
cost this less.
It could.
Right.
All right, that's all.
All right. Was it moved?
We don't want
Second.
it to exceed.
What was that?
We don't know how many tires are gonna come,
Okay.
on any given event. I mean, so we can't have it not to
Or
exceed,
an
just.
estimated cost of this.
You could have estimated, I just don't want to be
Estimated
here
based on last year.
we stick a number, we end up in the auditor's office, and they won't pay the bill. So,
Okay.
we don't know what's.
It's estimated, I'm misspoke.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
All right. Next time, no comment from you, Wally. Okay. Okay, but move that second, right? All in favor?
Aye.
No? Guys have it. Thank you, Rita. Number 5, replacement hire for Land Use Department, Bruce Tidwell.
We don't know if they brought forth a name. It was
Okay. Okay. Jim?
Yeah, I probably go through this speech every year at this time. so I'm gonna do it once again. We're at the end of our budget year. We're gonna get our budget proposal, the executive's budget, next week. I don't know what's in that budget. I don't know if there's gonna be based on tax increases, or if it's based on some cutting, or whatever it's based on. But, I'd like to see that budget before we do any, what I could call non-essential hiring. The nursing home, you have to have your CNAs and so forth. Not that I don't think a commercial planner is important, not that I don't think it's essential, but it's probably something I think we could hold off for a month or two, or at least give us a chance to look at the budget to see if we're going to have to perhaps consider making some reductions in the budget. So, so I have a hard time approving new positions at this time of the year, after just before we review the budget. I just want to put that out.
Okay, I'm gonna call on Kurt. However, you look in your packet for personnel requests, there is no name to submit. There's a commercial plant, the position, but there is no name. Kurt, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, sir. As you know, there are rare occurrences where the matter reaches this point in the board's agenda-setting process where the specific name of the candidate is still, as I believe is recorded here, as in progress. But I can report to you that the verbal offer has been made to the candidate through the authorization of the county executive's office. The candidate is considering it and will make a decision about their acceptance by close of business tomorrow, and therefore that would be prior to action of the county board next week. As to the matter of the position's essential nature, this is a position that's been vacant for some time. It's a position that was budgeted in the current fiscal year. It was contained in the budget request for next year, and budget officer can speak to this, but I am assured that it will be included in the executive's budget. I would say this for your consideration, that this position is one that, as the thankfully increasing number of commercial building permits are sought now that we are moving out of the recessionary period, this is the position that reviews the blueprints to ascertain their conformance to board-adopted codes. In the absence of such a position, what is necessary is that the material is sent out to a private vendor who performs these types of reviews. The billing associated with doing that is then passed on to the applicant and is therefore much more expensive than would have been the case if they were having that review performed by county staff.
I see. Okay. Any other questions?
I make a motion to approve the replacement.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
No?
Show me some no.
Okay. You want to do roll call?
Zebrowski?
Yes.
Adamant?
Yes.
Babbage?
Yes.
Bible?
Yes.
Frizalone?
No.
Gould?
No.
Mayor?
No.
Eustace?
No.
Weigel?
Yes.
Wilhelmie?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
7 yes, 4 no. Motion passes.
All right. All right. Number 6, replacement hire for Sunny Hill Nursing Home. And Bruce is not here on that.
Move.
Move.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
No? The ayes have it. Okay, we're down to our, proclamations? Okay, all right, and what do we have?
We have the 3 of them on there. The Northern Illinois Food Bank will not be a presentation. They're asking for a proclamation for Hunger Action Month.
So they will not?
They'll be here, but we're going to do a proclamation for them. They'll accept
Okay.
the proclamation.
Okay, all right.
The Historic Preservation Commission will be accepting an award for 2014 Commission Excellence Award.
Mhm.
And then we'll have proclamations for Take Back the Night.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, all right. Okay, number 8, thank you, Beth. Appointments by the county executive. Everybody have that?
So.
Been moved, second? All in favor? Aye. No? Ayes have it. Other new business, any other new business? No. Jim, oh, Jim, okay.
I know you mentioned this, I mentioned this at the land use committee Tuesday. And it involves the cannabis cultivation, which, you know, we passed our zoning ordinance in relation to the cultivation of cannabis was in the ag districts and the I districts, I-1, 2, and 3. And even though there was discussion of having a special use associated with those facilities, and I think at the time I thought there was probably a good argument made why we probably should not put a special use. But now that we're going down the road a little bit and we get reactions from some members of the community, and I'll say specifically personas of my district in the Manhattan area. For those of you who maybe don't remember the map, I do represent Manhattan Township and Green Garden Township. And you know, we tend to look at agriculture like somehow it's going to be out in some hitherland. You know, what we don't realize when you look at many of our districts, agriculture comes right up to many of the population centers, or right up to the municipalities. You know, there was a hearing in Manhattan, which I think at least the residents that were present were fairly upset with the county because the potential grower was from New York. Yep, they got, you know, well, best was from upstate New York. They have farms in upstate New York. Okay. But at any rate, from New York, made the statement that they're all approved by the county and it's all done. And, you know, in essence, that's true. I mean, we've already approved it with no regard to where it's being put. Now, this particular location is right outside the village of Manhattan. So it's up next to a population center. And there's various reasons I think people get concerned. You know, the rules keep changing. I would now, in retrospect, I would have preferred that we actually seen the rules before we made any commitment ourselves. But then again, we would have probably then would have taken too long, and there would have been no Will County sites considered. And this is why I think that put uses on it put on. But I do think we should review this, take it back, and have another public hearing on whether we should require special use permits for the growing of cannabis. Now, it's not going to do us, it won't affect anyone who's currently applied. I'm looking down more at the future. What is done is done. You know, we can't change that. But like gambling, you know, where we said, well, we're going to start out with 6 votes. We're starting out with 22 potential sites for cannabis cultivation. I believe that's going to grow because the reason I say that is because, look, I think the demand for cannabis is going to continue to grow. I think the laws that pertain to cannabis is going to continue to evolve, and I think that what you see in Colorado and Washington is probably potentially going to be the entire country at some point in time. And Illinois seems to be one of those, depending on how you want to look at it, you can call it more progressive, more liberal, whatever. They need the money, whatever reasons. I think Illinois will be one of those states that loosens up the regulations on cannabis over time, which will require that they'll probably have additional cultivation centers because of the demand. Right. So I would Mr. Chairman, I would like us to revisit this. I don't think there's necessarily a rush. Whether it's applying to land use next month or the month after, or I would like to see it on a public hearing sooner than later, only because I'd like to hear what people are now thinking, now that they know it's coming to their neighborhoods, or potentially coming to their neighborhoods. We didn't get a lot of feedback the last public hearings because I don't think people were aware of it. So I would like us to revisit that issue. I believe that we should tighten it up a little bit. And these are pretty secure facilities. I think just the security measures, that when people go by them, they'll be concerned. They'll be concerned. I understand though they did take off the rule that they had to have razor wire around the whole place, but that was one of the original. There was one of the original regulations. They had to have these, these kind of these kind of demilitarized zones, and then razor wire, and it'd be lit 24 hours a day. I mean, if that was next to you, you may be a little concerned, I think. I know I would be. So I would respectfully ask the committee to appoint the issue to the land use committee at the appropriate time, which I think would be next month, Mr. Speaker.
Let me ask you this, Jim. Perhaps you can help me understand. When the governor signs a bill, we as Will County adopt some form, resolution or some form of that bill in the county. We really have no idea, i.e. the marijuana bill. We really don't have any idea who would apply. We have some idea up until now, prior to that bill, before Will County took it on, that we did have applicants. But in the past, we really don't have an idea who would apply. So I guess my question to you is, should we go back and retro?
Well, I would say yes, because those who apply, look, first, nobody who is, unless they're really qualified, I personally don't think the state's going to issue the 22 license and cultivation licenses. I do think you're going to probably see maybe 6 to 8 issued initially. And quite frankly, I don't think that many people are going to actually qualify to do this. I do think it's going to be slow. But once again, no one who's applied now will be affected. It would only be those who apply in the future. Because we are under our current ordinance, so no one who's applied would be harmed. My understanding, there's 3 different firms who've actually applied for sites. We may apply, we have sites in Will County. But most of these companies that are applying have multiple sites. I mean, it's not like it's only Will County, and many of them are applying in a number of state police districts.
Okay.
So it's...
And there's only one per district,
Quite
state
honestly,
police.
I think it's less than a 50-50 chance that any cultivation center ends up in Will County.
Okay.
But this is for those down the line who may apply.
Okay.
Or it would also apply if and when the expansion of cultivation centers is allowed by Illinois. And I do think that will happen, even though I think it'll take a little time for that to happen.
Okay.
I do think that would be over time. And you may see them loosen up and say, we're going to allow 2 cultivation centers in District 5, not just 1.
I don't see that in close future. But now, just so that I can understand, your request is to send this back to land use to reconsider it. However, it is not retroactive to those that already applied.
Correct.
Did I understand that correctly?
That's correct. It would not apply to anyone who's currently in the system.
Okay. Mr. Weigel?
Shouldn't we wait till the state finalizes their rules to bring it up again, rather than try to?
They're done.
No, applications go in the 21st.
They're final?
Yeah, they're going to do it this month.
As long as the rules are finalized, that's fine. Okay.
All right, Mr. Musis, we'll entertain a motion to send it back to land use.
Well, actually, so what I would request that it be on the executive committee agenda next meeting, and then, of course, at that point, you could have further discussion and make a decision
Okay.
and make a decision whether you wanted to move it.
Move it back to the advances. Okay, we can do that. We need a motion? No, we don't need, okay, we'll do that. All right, thank you. All right, let's go to committee reports. Number one, land use, Tom Weigel.
We've got 4 zoning cases and 1 resolution. Case number 2 is controversial. It's a auto resalvaging recycling yard on Lennox Road. The vote was 3-2 to deny it. So that may be a controversial one. We may have a lot of people talking about it. I have a question for state's attorney. Under our new format, we show this under one item. Normally, we have a resolution for the map amendment and also for the special use permit. We have 2 different votes. Is that still the case or no?
Well, you did that, and you had 2 votes in land use, and also the planning and zoning also had to vote on the special use.
Yes, we did.
We'll split them up.
You split them up? Okay.
Separate votes.
Okay.
Is that your request? You got to still have it?
Yes, it should be split, I believe.
Okay.
That's all I have.
We'll do that. All right. Thank you, Tom. Finance, Steve, you still here?
I'm still here.
All right.
We have 7 resolutions. We're going to be increasing our commitment for the University of Illinois Cooperative Extension for the next budget period. Renewing the contract with the auditor. We will be funding our OPEB contribution at $2 million and miscellaneous other items. We are going to have a special finance committee meeting. Is the 20th good, or
No, it's a 30th.
It's going to be a 30th? As I say, the 20th isn't the day we talked about, so that will be the last Tuesday in September to initiate our budget discussions after having received it at county board next week. And then I think we'll probably have at least 2 more special meetings after that, in addition to our regular scheduled meeting on October 7th.
Thank you, Steve. You are special. Thank you. Special meeting. Thank you. Public Works and Transportation, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, fellow board members. We have 22 items to present for next Thursday's committee. A couple of those that I'm going to make note of was the emergency procurement for road salt, which will be necessary for the upcoming snow season.
Which number is that, Bob?
That would be the second and third one.
Second and third, okay.
One is emergency, and then the other one is to pay for it and so forth. The other item I'd like to bring to your attention was the Weber Road interchange.
What number?
Number 20.
20. All right.
Located in districts 3, 4, and 13, so that moving forward.
Okay.
If there aren't any other questions, our next meeting for the Public Works Committee is on the 7th of October at 8:30. Invite all to participate.
All right. Thank you, sir. Judicial revival.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Judicial has no resolutions or reports to offer for next week's board meeting. However, when we did meet, we had a presentation by the Sheriff's Department about the new authorization from the General Assembly to county government to impose a fee for administrative towing. And after some discussion, we requested that the state's attorney's office begin drafting an ordinance for the next county board, because the board can exercise this authority in January. So we've requested they draft an ordinance that the first meeting of the board in January can deliberate on and pass right out of the chute if they want to. And in addition to that, we've asked the state's attorney to begin drafting ordinance language on a new courthouse user's fee, so that both of these matters we can get right at the beginning of the year.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Reed. Mr. Babbage told me he had to go by 11. So he's gone. Anybody in public safety? Is there a vice chair? Mr. Gould?
The only item is to renew a contract for nursing services at Sunny Hill. You'll recall those are companies that come in when we're a little understaffed and they're there to fill the void, so. Okay.
Thanks, Don. Insurance personnel, Diane, I think you canceled your meeting?
Yeah, we got nothing to report this month.
Okay.
Next month.
Thank you. Bob Howard's not here, legislative and policy. I think Suzanne is a vice chair of that committee. And she's not here either. But just an update, State Rep Al Riley came in and gave us an update of some issues going on in Springfield. And we went over many of the bills that were coming up down there in Springfield. Al Riley spent quite a bit of time sharing with us and giving us a lot of good information that morning. Jim, you were there, anything else? Yeah, no, pretty much. Okay, all right. Capital improvements, Miss Winfrey is not here. She's out of town. Who? Oh, Jackie, that's right. Put your mic down there. There we go.
We had a nice meeting.
Good report.
Yes. Nothing really of major import. Just an update on how things are going with the water and sewer project. A lot of discussion about the bids for the land that we need to acquire. In fact, I don't believe we passed any motions out of committee, but other than the two dealing with the radio lease and the tower. And those are just renewals and pretty rudimentary and nothing exciting. We're not going to spend huge money today.
Not today.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you, Jackie. Ad hoc, Don Moran's not here, and Suzanne Hart is also chair of the ad hoc for the airport. We did have an update. He did have a meeting this month, and we just heard some updates, some things that are going on. Nothing new, everybody pretty much knew, but just there's some update with that. Okay? All right, now I need a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Thank Jim. Wally Adam make a second. All in favor? Aye. No? Ayes have it. Chairman report. Announcement. The only thing I want to ask is remember throughout this day, today is the 13th anniversary of 911. I am in Homer Glen tonight with a celebration with our veterans. You're all invited there. So please keep that in mind, keep in mind. We don't have executive session? No? Good. Motion to adjourn? Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it over. Ayes have it. Have a good